We are the Childhood Collective, and we have helped thousands of overwhelmed parents find joy and confidence in raising their child with ADHD. I'm Katie, a speech language pathologist.
And I'm Lori.
And I'm Mallory, and we're both child psychologists. We combine the science of ADHD with the compassion of moms and bring you practical tools you can start using today.
So hit subscribe and let's help your family shine with ADHD.
Today, we are thrilled to be interviewing Anna Macsalka, the founder of Zenimal. If you've been listening to the Shining with ADHD podcast for a while, you know how much we love the Zenimal. In fact, we each use them in our own homes.
Yes, and I use them for both my kids and myself. Anna is a mom entrepreneur who founded her business in 2017 to help people lead healthier, more joyful lives through meditation.
Anna, welcome. We are so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I've mentioned a bunch of times, you guys are our best champions, and the words that you guys have always spoken so fondly of our company, and we're just I'm so honored to be here. I feel like you guys are the experts in ADHD, and these, you guys are the type of people that I want to be surrounding myself with to better understand the people that I'm wanting to reach and the people that I'm wanting to help. So thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for all the championing that you do for the company.
We so believe in your product in so many ways. I know we'll talk more about it, but we just absolutely love it for our kids and the families that we work with.
It's so true. I was going to say the feelings are all very mutual. So before we jump into some of these questions, I know that there are still some people listening who don't know exactly what a Zenimal is. So can you briefly explain that, just so that our audience has kind of a mental picture of this awesome product that we're talking about?
Absolutely. So the Zenimal is a completely screen-free, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth-free, there's no connectivity whatsoever device. It's a standalone device. It's about the size of a smartphone. It's very, very light. It's 6 ounces. There's 9 guided meditations loaded onto it. So it's everything from a sleep meditation to gratitude, empathy, stillness, and then just a really short, simple breath meditation. So kind of whatever you're looking for that day, we sort of try to capture that umbrella of mindfulness options and benefits. There's also 3 sleep sounds. So it plays relaxing music, white noise, or ocean waves. There's volume control. There's an earphone jack, which is really lovely if you're sort of looking to create that sort of private sanctuary of a space, or if they're in a public setting like at school, or they share a room with a sibling. That's a really great option. Otherwise, there's a built-in speaker that is actually pretty loud. I have some customers that say, actually, it will be loud enough for me to play for both kids in 2 rooms. And I'm like, they said we just put it in the hall. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. All of the meditations are loaded on a micro SD memory card that can be swapped out for new meditations. So we have a couple of sleep cards for kids. And then the silicone cover is an FDA approved food grade silicone, and it's removable. You can throw it in the dishwasher to sanitize it.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Hey,
I'm going to need to sanitize my, I love that.
Yeah, I am a mom of 2 little kids, so anytime I can put anything in the dishwasher, I'm like, yes. So that was part of the reason that I did that. And then obviously volume control, and then it's a rechargeable battery, so it takes about an hour and a half to recharge, but that'll give you over 7 hours of use. If the unit is plugged in, the sleep sounds will play continuously through the night. If not, the sleep sounds will time out after 60 minutes, and then the meditations, after they end 3 minutes, the device will power down, so you don't have to worry about like army crawling into your kid's room to shut off the device. It will power down, and it won't waste the battery. So I think that's basically the Zenimal in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I know my family, my daughter loves stories, and so we bought one of the sleep cards to swap it out. And so if you get the Zenimal, there are also other options for cards, and she really likes hearing those stories, and they're longer. They're like 30 minutes, some of them. And so she kind of just falls asleep like listening to those. And it's just great because some kids like my youngest one prefers kind of like a shorter one to meditate before bed, and she likes something longer. So it's nice that there's options with that.
Yes. And for people who are still picturing it in their mind, the ones that I have for my kids are shaped like a little turtle. So
Yes.
they
Yes.
call it their turtle. So when we go on trips, they're like, don't forget my turtle.
Yes.
And
Aw.
they're really small, but they picked out their own colors. And now I know
Yeah.
that those colors are washable. So that's good. That's always good, especially on a road trip, as a
Yes.
mental note. But yeah, so those are really cute. And then there's little buttons on their turtle that they can pick, and they have little icons. So
Yeah.
like one of my kids loves the creativity one, and that's like a little paintbrush thing. So they know kind of which button is their favorite.
Yeah. And it's nice for the older kids, for teens, adults. They're ones that are like shaped more like I would say like a diamond kind of, where
Yeah, it's like a geode
yeah,
shape.
it's very
Yeah, and then
cool.
those are loaded with different meditations. They're a little
Yeah.
bit more like the vocabulary is a little bit bigger and they're a little bit longer
Yeah.
in length, but otherwise the device functions exactly the same.
Yeah. And honestly, like I use my kids' turtle just fine, and I do
Yeah.
those meditations with them. Like
Yeah.
I love to do them with them, and sometimes I steal them to use it at other times when I'm feeling
Aw.
anxious. So I actually feel like it works for me as an adult even to use it.
Oh,
But yeah, I
thank you.
remember when, how I found your product was my daughter was having so much anxiety at night, and also just really having a hard time falling asleep. It was like she needs a lot of sleep and wasn't falling asleep till like 9:30 at night and not getting enough rest. And I was like desperate. And I sent out a message to this therapist group in Arizona. I said, I'm looking for like meditations or apps or whatever, because like my daughter is having a hard time. I don't love the iPad because then she can't do it on her own, and I don't like this light from the screens. And a therapist reached out and was like, hey, I'm a therapist. My daughter has anxiety and she also has ADHD. And like, I swear by this Zenimal.
Oh.
And I bought it like that day. And I'm telling you, the night that I got it, she fell asleep an hour and a half earlier than normal. It was crazy. So it has been very life-changing for our family. But we want to hear your story. So tell us a little bit about what led you to creating the Zenimal.
So your story is a great inlet for that, is that I was your daughter. When I was really, really young, around 4 years old, I started having night terrors where I would go to sleep fine, but then I would wake up in this inconsolable panic. I would hyperventilate. I would sometimes get physically sick. It was really intense. And it was before Google and things like that, before you could Google, like, why is my kid freaking out,
Yeah.
an hour after she goes to sleep. And then I started to worry that it was going to happen. And so then I got generalized anxiety before bed. And I remember like the sun would set and I'd get that like bubble up in my throat,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
here it comes again. Like, and it's every 24 hours you're going through it. And it makes you feel broken, right, as a kid. And certainly like my poor parents, zero resources. We lived in a really small town, and they eventually found a clinical psychologist, and they took me and said, like, please try to fix her. And she, over the course of several months, going, sometimes twice a week, she taught me how to get control of my breath whenever I'd feel that bubble coming up. I'd visualize relaxing my body. For me, it really worked to visualize like water flowing through my body and getting really, really heavy. And then we built out this very magical place for me to go. And for me, it was riding my pony on the beach. And I would visualize like I was wearing a teal t-shirt, hence the like hero color is teal of the Zenimal. A teal t-shirt, cut off jean shorts. This is the 80s, like dating myself, but very like crimped ponytail, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But over the course of the several months, I started to memorize how to do it. I started to get it in my body, and it worked, and it was amazing. And I went to summer camp that same year for 2 weeks by myself. I mean,
Wow.
it had gotten to the point where it was hard for me to even go to school by myself. I was so fearful of not having my parents nearby to get me through the panic attack or
Yes.
whatever it was. And then you start to have that general anxiety of like, what happens if my parents die and then I'm alone? And like your
Yep.
brain just spirals. But
It
the
does, yeah.
mindfulness practice, yeah, like, and I see it in my kids too. It's sort of the nature of children, like they are, so, attached to their parents. But for me, it was really, really extreme. But the mindfulness mindfulness practice, it was remarkable. It did a complete 180 on my childhood experience. And flash forward a lot of years later, in 2015, I welcomed my own daughter into the world, and sitting with her in the hospital, you're like, you have all the hormones and everything, and your brain starts to
Uh-huh.
spin a tiny bit of like, oh my gosh, I remember how awful that was for me as a
Yeah.
kid. What if she has the same situation? And so I started just like, I got on my phone and was doing research, and I'm like, oh man, all of these are apps or require some
Mhm.
sort of screen or require a
Yes.
person to, do that. So she has no autonomy. And I also just can't imagine handing my child a phone and saying like, oh, go be calm. Like,
Right.
is not what my
And you need your phone
like,
when your kids go to bed. You
it
would
did.
like to
That's the
keep
other
your phone
Right.
thing.
with you.
100%. It's like, it's your time to like, order school clothes
Scroll.
and things like that. Yes.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, no, I think like, and so just for me personally, like how I envisioned parenting, that was not sort
Yeah.
of I didn't want that to be a part of her mindfulness practice. And so I thought like, it really, really helped me as a kid. I would love to give her autonomy where she doesn't feel like she has to go to therapy every week to learn how to do this. And therapy is great, right? Like but like
Right.
use your therapy for other things.
Mhm.
Work on other therapy issues, like use them, use this animal for the mindfulness stuff. And so I thought like, yeah, like maybe this is my path. Maybe I'm supposed to do this. And so I started doing research of thinking like, well, is this just me? Was I the only,
Mm,
kid that suffered like this? And I started talking to moms like you guys, where
yeah.
it's not unusual. It is not unusual at all. In fact, it's probably more the norm than not that children have
Yeah.
anxiety, especially at bedtime. It's tough growing up, especially this day and age where the world is kind of a big scary place. We have a lot of information coming at us at all times, and for several reasons, it's a little bit of a tougher time to be a human being. It's not quite how we're wired, to be living how
Absolutely.
we're living. And so I just took it upon myself to just make the product I selfishly wanted for my own children.
Yeah.
And I really did take a lot of care. And I went over to China several times. This is, we do manufacture in China so that it can be, somewhat affordable while also being incredibly safe. It passes 11 certifications. We use expensive materials that are safe.
Mhm.
I didn't want to cut corners. Again, selfishly, I put this in my own kid's bed. It sits on their pillow at night,
Yeah.
and so I did want to make it very, very safe. And I am proud of the product that has come about. And we do have a new product in the works that I'm really super duper excited about that will be coming out next year, which is awesome. Which will give
Do we get
parents
a
the
hint
ability
of
to
what that is?
you
Okay.
I can I'm like, I'm not a very secretive person. When people are like, I'm not telling, I'm like, well, that's silly. um it'll give parents the capability to record meditations for their kids. So what I've noticed over the last couple
Oh,
of years was my kids still use their Zenimal, but I think a big part of that is it's my voice on most of the
yeah.
meditations, and it is
Mhm.
very comforting for a child to have that sound of their parent's voice, or a loved one, or a grandparent or whatever that is. So we'll give those capabilities. You'll be able to update the Zenimal much more easily. We'll have a lot more languages offered, and hopefully we're working on it right now, heartbeat recording capabilities, so you'll be able to record a heartbeat
Oh.
and
Oh, I
layer it
love
over
that.
music, which is really nice for it's oddly like they're doing a lot of studies on, and then I'll be quiet because I know we've got limited time, but um
Yeah.
heartbeat record or heartbeat therapy is they're showing a lot of efficacy in reduction, especially postpartum depression. But it does down regulate your nervous system. There is something incredibly comforting about a heartbeat, especially of a heartbeat of like whether or not that's your heartbeat or that's a loved one, or
Mhm.
perhaps somebody that has passed, and you've been able to capture it. That is something like I'm weirdly really excited about. And
Awesome.
then updating with like a lot of people just like the music, or a lot of people just like nature sounds, and it's
Mhm.
I try to be everything to everyone. And that makes it's this new product will make it much easier to sort of customize it, which I'm pretty thrilled about. And then we may or may not have a nightlight feature on it.
Oh, so
Ooh.
cool. I love it.
Mhm.
It
Love
sounds
it.
Yes, yes, yes,
amazing,
yes, yes.
honestly. And
Oh,
that's one
thank
thing
you.
when I pack the turtles, I also pack a nightlight for trips.
Yes,
So,
Yes.
yes.
hey,
We're
that
gonna cut
would
that. We're gonna cut
definitely
out that nightlight. We're gonna cut
okay,
that out.
two
We're gonna be
birds,
a
one
2 for 1.
stone.
Yeah.
I love
Yes,
it.
that is
Okay.
because
I
I'm
know.
like, listen, I'm a mom. Like I pack for trips. I'm a single mom, so it's like I don't have I have two arms to carry luggage and that is it. So we're slim pickings when
Yes.
we go places.
Yep.
And so I do know like if I the more features I can get into
Yeah.
one product and just bring that one product. So that's the product that I'm trying to
Well,
produce is it's like a just throw it in the bag and you got all your things.
yeah. Well, I just love hearing your story. And I was also that kid too, with anxiety as a child and separation fears. And also, my parents really didn't know what to do and didn't have resources. And I had my first in 2014, and
Oh,
she also has anxiety, and we're in therapy right now for OCD treatment. And I love that I've been able to give her those tools through the Zenimal, of mindfulness strategies and strategies from therapy to help her have that and learn how to cope with her anxiety at such a young age. Because, like you and I, we just didn't have that.
yeah,
Not everybody
yeah,
has that. And
yeah,
still, so many kids, the research shows so many kids do not get treatment for that. So if there's a
yeah,
product out there that can really help them have the tools, and we know from the research, mindfulness is so effective for kids with
yeah.
ADHD and anxiety. It's just awesome. So I just love hearing your story, and
Oh,
so
thank
relatable.
you. Yeah, it's like I think we're learning. It was sort of a closeted thing in
Yep.
when we were growing up and it was this like sort of thing to be ashamed of. It's like I don't know that I've ever talked to anyone that wasn't like, "Yeah, I'm good. I got no mental stuff." It's like I
Exactly,
don't
right?
like is it really? Are you sure?
Yep.
It's like
And if they say
we're
that, then you're like, yeah, whatever.
yeah. Yeah,
That's your
that
sign right
then
there.
that's
Yeah.
your thing. Yeah, that's right. You're in denial. No, I was kidding. No, it's horrible. No, I think like it is just common. It's tough being a human. We're so complicated. We're
Yeah.
so wildly complicated. I think the fact that we can, love
Yes.
and feel joy and feel sad. I mean, it's like it's bound to kind of go off the rails a little bit. But also like just appreciating that we can feel all of these things and it's not going to
Yes.
be perfect every single day and learning that sort of awareness I think can be really helpful and just not feeling alone. Humans, we are not wired to feel alone. That is like if
I know.
anything's going to send you off the rails, it's loneliness.
Yep.
And so I think continuing to talk about it and saying like, yeah, me, I also have this. um
That's my biggest, I don't know, soapbox that I stand on with parents all day long. I'm like, we have to talk about our own things to a kid
totally.
friendly way to let our kids know that
Yes.
they're not alone
Yeah.
because big feelings are scary. And when you feel
Yes.
like you're experiencing them all by yourself, that's the most scary part for a lot of
Yep.
kids. And so I think
Yep.
I hear you and I'm like, yes, I have goosebumps. Let's just tell all the parents. We
Yeah,
have
a
to let our
hundred
kids know they're
percent.
not alone.
I
They're
know.
not
Yeah.
alone. And like, it's like I don't hide. I try to be like grounded with my kids, and not be like hot mess express. But like
Yes.
if I'm feeling sad that day, like and I cry, I don't leave the room. Like I
Hmm.
cry and
Yep.
then I'm not like, like, whoa, so like when
Yeah.
it's like reasonable crying. But I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling really, really sad today or whatever. And they're like, oh, what are you sad about? It's like, I'm sad about this thing. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, you don't have to be sorry. Like this is
Hmm.
this is
Yeah.
this is really a beautiful thing that I,
Yes.
whatever I'm sad about is like that I really loved this person and now they're
Mhm.
gone, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And then we talk about it. And I think just having that open dialogue, there is no shame.
Yes.
And then, but doing a lot of repairing and saying like, I'm here for you, and this doesn't make me
Yeah.
any like less strong. It's just,
Hmm.
Yeah.
it's right now there is
It,
sadness there.
it's funny, like two nights ago, I started crying with my kids, and I was just disappointed. I was feeling all the emotions
Oh,
about something. And
yeah.
my daughter's
Yeah.
like, it's okay, mom, to cry. It's okay to be sad. We all feel sad. And I was
And
like,
you're
Yeah,
like, it's
yay, it's
working.
I know
working.
it's working. It's working.
I love it.
Yeah. Yes,
I
it's
love it.
amazing. That's one of the buttons on the Zenimal is the awareness button, and that's something that the original title for that button was feelings. And it's
Hmm.
just examining all the feelings and not labeling them as good or
Yeah.
bad. It's just like sometimes also I have found to with my own practice and things like that, instead of saying I'm sad, I say there is sadness there. right? It's like it's
Mhm.
not you're not labeling
Yes.
yourself as one
Yeah.
particular person that's just like going to be tattooed on your forehead
Yep.
forever. It's like, oh, just right now the sadness is in the room, right? It's like,
Yep.
oh, welcome, have a seat, here's some tea.
I love
Welcome to
that.
the
And
party.
that really helps,
Yeah,
I think, to help kids conceptualize that it is temporary, right? There's
very much
sadness
so.
here right now. And
Yes.
I love that. That's beautiful not to define yourself or your
Yep.
child in a certain way. Like I've even heard
Yeah.
like you're so shy. And even that that's
Oh,
not how we want to
no,
describe kids. So I
no.
love that. That's really a lovely way to explain it.
Over the past year, my oldest has really struggled with anxiety, especially at night. As soon as it was time for sleep, she'd be crying for me to stay and worrying about all the things. I was talking to another therapist about our bedtime battles, and she said the Zenimal, a screen free meditation device, had been a game changer for her daughter with ADHD and anxiety. I immediately purchased the Zenimal and can confidently say it was the best tool to help my daughter get better sleep. She was able to fall asleep an hour earlier using it.
Yes, it's actually really helped my kids to be able to calm their busy bodies at night.
What we love about the Zenimal is that it combines two of our favorite bedtime recommendations, using a relaxation strategy and removing screens from the bedroom.
The Zenimal is an adorable screen free turtle with 9 guided meditations your kids can choose from. And our absolute favorite part of the Zenimal is that every meditation ends with the most important message: you're a good kid.
To grab your own Zenimal and get your child and yourself some better sleep, head to zenimals.com and use our code TCC for a discount. You can also find the link in the show notes.
So, as you know,
Okay.
most of our audience is almost entirely ADHD parents. And so, when we're talking about the Zenimal, can you tell us a little bit more about how meditation and a tool like the Zenimal can be helpful for kids and adults with ADHD?
Yes, absolutely. And it is, it's beneficial for everybody, but it can be really especially powerful for individuals with ADHD, both kids and adults. And really the reason why, there's countless clinical trials on the ability to improve attention and focus. So one of the core practices of meditations is really centered around honing in on your focus. So like we'll focus on the breath, or you'll focus on relaxing your body. And so you think of it sort of when you're doing that as a daily practice, it's almost like a gym workout for the brain,
Yes.
right? Like
Mhm.
you can't just like stop working out and your bicep is going to stay like super toned. Like you have to keep doing it every day, but it's honing that focus, it's strengthening that muscle. There's also a benefit of enhanced self-regulation. And so meditation sort of at its core is about staying present, and the practice that practice can train, the ADHD, brain to better regulate reactions and impulsivity. So it's sort of like it's getting that ability to be actually aware, and then having the capability to self-regulate. There's also a reduction in stress and anxiety. I'm sure, like my daughter has ADHD. When she is stressed, it's like putting it under a microscope, under the
Mm-hmm.
sun, right? And
Yep.
everything just like blows up. And so reducing stress and anxiety is always beneficial for anybody with ADHD. And it's not beneficial for any human. But it does actively reduce cortisol, which is that primary sort of stress hormone in the body. Again, like emotional regulation. So through meditation, like one can become more attuned, I guess, to their emotional responses, making it easier to process and control emotions. The brain benefits. So there's really cool research out there that meditation can positively influence the brain structure. So some studies have even suggested that it increases gray matter density in the areas that are really vital for attention and executive functioning. And then, like we've been talking about sleep, like when I don't sleep,
Mm-hmm.
like everything is off. We talked about going off the rails. Like I am less patient, I am less focused, I am kind of just a disaster when I don't sleep. And so you look at that for a developing, growing body, and you don't let it sleep, and then you layer on ADHD, like that's a recipe for disaster. And so being able to calm down that nervous system so that they can sleep at night is just can be such a huge, huge game changer. And really, as far as like why Zenimal, can be better for ADHD kids over something like a device is it's really eliminating that distraction. And especially now in this digital age, like we really do need that break where it's like that almost that muscle memory where you're picking it up and your body knows what it's about ready to do. And then sort of like just promoting that genuine mindfulness without any visuals and anything sort of like shutting down most of the five senses, I guess, can be really helpful. And then portability is huge. Being able to
Mhm.
take. I don't know a single teacher that has said no, you can't bring your Zenimal to
Yep.
school.
Yep.
They'll say like you can go sit with it in the corner with headphones or whatever. You're not going to be able to do that with a phone.
Yeah.
And so, they can use it in the car, they can use it at school, they can take it to the doctor's office, whatever, on the way to soccer, right? I hear from parents, we don't have time for it. It's like, well, do you drive to soccer?
Yep.
Because that's 3 minutes. The breath meditation is 3 minutes. Like that can
Yes.
be that
Uh-huh.
moment. And so it's really, like whether or not it's the Zenimal or you find it in other solutions, it's really just about finding that mindfulness tool that works for that individual. It preferably screen free would be ideal, but it really can be such a powerful tool. Is that helpful?
Absolutely. And all the ways you explained it, I think it makes so much sense. And in my family, a big piece of our using the Zenimal is and teaching this meditation is that it's part of our routine. And I think that's
Yes.
so huge for families with ADHD, especially is that we need to lean into those routines because there's days when it's not motivating, there's days when it's overwhelming, there's days when it's just, let's be honest, like sheer chaos. And so
Yeah.
when we know this is what we do, we get in our bed, we read a story, we do a song, and then I turn on your Zenimal on my way out, and it's very consistent.
Yeah.
I know, Lori, you listen to it with your girls, but every family can do it their own way.
Sometimes, but not always,
trying
yeah.
to build it into like, okay, this is generally what we do,
Yeah.
can be so helpful for them to just understand this is
Yeah.
the routine.
And I love you saying it's like exercise because, again, like we know physically it's important to exercise, but we don't think about almost exercising our brains to relax, to decrease stress. And it really is like a daily thing. Even when it's so many of those meditations on there are short, like you said, that there's time to be able to practice that and build that into your routine every day so that you're helping your child like learn how to calm themselves and really retrain their brain. Your brain doesn't always have to be racing all the time. You can find tools to manage that.
Yeah, and I think it's your body will start to crave it. If you are consistent enough, it will start to recognize like I like it when I feel the way
Yes.
I feel after I do a meditation. And so it will start to sort of ask for that. Because it does feel really good. And listen, like I am by no means expecting that every single child on the planet is going to be like, "Oh, what a lovely little turtle. I can't wait to do this and adopt it and make it mine." Like no, there's a more times than not maybe some resistance, right? Of like, no, I'm going to go outside and play, or I want to play a video game or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And that's fine. That's normal.
Yeah.
That is completely normal. I would say like try to make it fun. You can, for us, we create like sort of this little special meditation space within the house, or I know teachers are doing it in the classroom. You can do cushions and blankets and sort of let them decorate with fairy lights, whatever would kind of get them excited of like, oh, this is my space that I get to do this in. And it can kind of be an activity that you guys do together. Also, like leading by example. Sometimes my kids don't want to do it, right? They're more interested in going, down to the beach or whatever it is. And it's like I just will sit in the middle of my living room and I'll turn it on and I'll just do it. And 9 times out of 10, they just get so curious. And then they come sit next to me and they'll at least finish the last half of. So it's like really leading by example and just sitting. And maybe they're like pulling on your hair. Maybe they're trying to distract you and be silly or whatever. Like, listen, I get it. Like my kids are awesomely energetic and super spirited.
Same.
And I don't like sit in front of bamboo and have like trickling water in my house. Like people like, oh, you must have such a peaceful house. Like, no, we're a family. Like we have energy and we, laugh and giggle and make some interesting choices. And that's lovely. And that's the house that I want. But I think leading by example is very, very helpful, and just being consistent. Some days is just going to be a big old belly flop, and that's okay. But just, daily trying to get that in. Like it's just making that a regular routine. Routines are so super helpful with ADHD, which I'm sure is something that you guys talk about all the time.
Mhm.
And then creating that feedback loop. So after each session, you can kind of spend a moment, if they want, if not, whatever, talking about how they felt during that meditation. Maybe some interesting things come up. I sometimes during a meditation, some weird stuff comes up for me where it's upsetting, or I feel sad, or I feel angry, or I feel, whoa, that's so interesting. And so just sort of reinforcing that awareness of today felt different than yesterday, right? And maybe this is why, or maybe it's because of this, or maybe it's because of nothing. Maybe it's just where we're at today. And so again, don't I would say the number one thing is just be patient. Don't
Yeah.
do not push too hard, because that's just going to build way more resistance. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to return to it later. It's okay to return to it in a week, whatever it is. And so I think just setting really low expectations for them, and just making it an offering, maybe just leaving it on the nightstand and saying, if you get curious, turn it on. And I can guarantee you within a week, you're going to hear a little singing bull chime. They're going to power it on because they just can't help themselves. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's a pretty cool little
It is.
contraption. I would also be
yeah.
curious. So one of our favorite things about the Zenimal is that you end each meditation with the words, "And remember, you're a
Oh.
good kid." And we love this
Yes.
message for
Yep.
kids. So tell us about why you decided to include that in each meditation.
Yeah. Um, so that was something that my dad said to me every single day of my life.
Oh,
And we lost him in 2018.
I'm so
And it was the
sorry.
it was the last thing he ever said to me.
Oh,
And I think it was such a remarkable legacy to leave me with, to leave my brothers with, was that, and I've had some pushback from parents and some other professionals of saying, like, you don't want to tell them like they're good and bad. And I'm like, no, that's not the message that I'm saying. It's not the good versus bad. It's the good that you're enough. Like in this
yes.
moment, I don't care what you think. I don't care whatever it is. You are good, and you are just what the world needs. And I think we so much now in this digital age of social media, and we're capturing everybody's highlights, and you're supposed to keep up with it. We're wired to keep up with the Joneses, by the way. Like we if you it's like when we were living in a cave, if you didn't meet status quo, you got kicked out of the cave, right? You're the weakest link. You're out. You're not contributing. So like, but now we have social media where we're trying to keep up with a million Joneses instead of like eight, right?
Mhm.
And that can be really exhausting, and feeling like, oh, I'm not making the cut, right? I'm not, or I think there's sometimes as parents, like, or whatever, they're comparing themselves to other kids, or they're just different. But my gosh, if we were all the same, if we were all quote unquote perfect, how would the world spin? How would things function? Like if everyone was doing the exact same job and good at the exact same thing, how
Yeah.
uninteresting and how unproductive. And so I think it's just the, like, you are just what the world ordered.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to change a thing. And that's why I end the
Yeah.
meditations with that. And on the teen adult device, it's like it ends with like, don't forget you're always enough. And it's just, I know it's cliche and I get exhausted hearing it too, but it's like we need to keep telling ourselves that, because so much sort of internal suffering comes from not loving ourselves. And I over and over again, like, I know self-care, I know all of the things, but you really do have to love yourself in order to love and give to others, because otherwise it just reeks of inauthenticity, and people don't buy it. And so I think finding a way, and listen, like we talked about this, like I I have like imposter syndrome like you would not believe. And I struggle a lot,
Same.
and like I'm not being like, I'm not being a good enough mom, or like I'm not running the company right, or oh, we're whatever, this is not how I thought it was going to turn out, like, oh, I'm such an idiot and this and that. And like, you don't talk to anyone else in the world more than you talk to yourself in your lifetime. And so you
Right.
just got to learn to find some gentler words. And I think it bleeds into how you talk to your kids too. And so if you learn to talk nicely, and you'll learn to also to be much more patient with your children, and sort of seeing the mirror within I'm kind of like babbling on now, but anyway, that's why all the meditations end. Like, that's something I really feel strongly about.
I can't tell you how many families I talk to and the parents say, my child is saying now all the time, I'm a bad kid. Why am I, our kids
Oh,
with ADHD, why am I a bad kid? Why
oh,
do I do these bad things? And my head tells me one thing and my body does another. And so
yeah.
for
Oh,
those kids
yes.
with ADHD, again, who are getting a message, sometimes being told you're a bad kid, right? Or having that message over and over during the day. I love that there's a different message communicated through that device, that they're a good kid and
Oh,
they need to hear it. So thank you for
right.
that. We appreciate it.
Yeah. And that is it is so heartbreaking, isn't it?
I know.
Because it's um just because they don't fit into the box,
Yes.
right? And
Yep.
it's like of expectations. But I will say there's this book called, I think it's called Kid Innovators, and it's all about people who have gone on to do like really amazing things in the
I
world.
love
I think
it.
like Isaac Newton's in there. But if you read, but it tells the story of when they were kids. And almost every single story is they were labeled the bad kid. They were labeled stupid. They were labeled, like dumb, or they were dense, or they were a
Yeah.
problem, right? And they got shipped off to different schools. But they went on to do absolutely remarkable things in the world because they are different and because
Yep.
they are outside of the box.
It's interesting. We just found those books at the library.
They're
They're
fantastic.
amazing. We just got Martin
Yes.
Luther King and another one, and
Yes.
it's so cool to see their childhood,
Yep.
and my kids
Yep.
absolutely love them. Well, we have loved having you on, and again, just so appreciative of you and the product you've created. But can you tell us where our audience can find more about you and the Zenimal? We know you have these big things coming out, so tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, 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 yes. So always on our website, zenimals.com. We have a lot of resources on there as well. You can reach out to us with email if any questions, comments, concerns at hello@zenimals.com. We're at the Zenimal on pretty much every social media platform. So whatever is your favorite, we're probably there. And then we are also now available in 1,000 CVS stores.
That's
So we
so
will be in
awesome.
children's remedies. We'll be next to melatonin. So that's where you'll be able to
Yay.
find us. I think most of them are at the stores at this point. And if they're not, make sure you ask your store for them. And so yeah, so we're just trying to spread out. We're also available on Amazon. We are sold out on the kids right now, but they are on the way. The teen adult device, but always on our website. We try to always hold inventory there. And but please do reach out. We love feedback, and always developing. And then the new product should be out by next summer, which is really great. And then if you're fearful of like, I don't want to buy this product now, we're going to do a big buyback program. And
Oh,
so
that's great.
you'll be able to exchange out your unit for the new one. So, so
Awesome.
yeah, but yeah, anytime anyone needs anything, we're always available.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, we've learned so much, and thanks again for coming on.
Thanks for listening to Shining with ADHD by your hosts, Lori, Katie, and Mallory of the Childhood Collective.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like this video and hit subscribe so you can be the first to know when a new episode airs.
If you are looking for links and resources mentioned in this episode, you can always find those in the show notes. See you next time.